in the Breeders' Cup Classic. An American Pharaoh bounds right to the front. He's going to take the early lead in the Classic, and FNX is away running in second. Frosted wrangled off the pace, and so too Totalist on the inside. And he's a bit keen and headstrong. And Keen Ice is right behind them as American Pharaoh passes the finish line for the first time. And then it's Glen Eagles, followed on the outside by Hard Aces, and Honor Code is last. And the first quarter mile goes in 23 and 4/5 seconds. That's not a fast pace. And it is American Pharaoh who is setting it. And FNX is his closest pursuer. He is 2 lengths behind, running in second. Totalist, a Belmont Stakes winner, is third, 5 lengths off of a Triple Crown winner. And then Frosted to the outside. Keen Ice is a good 9 lengths behind. Then Glen Eagles, Hard Aces, and Honor Code will do his running later. He's 13 lengths off the lead. A half mile in 47 and 2/5 seconds. And American Pharaoh, the Triple Crown winner, heads up the backstretch at Keeneland in the Breeders' Cup Classic. FNX is a length and 3/4 off of him in second. And then Totalist and Frosted right together, third and fourth, 5 lengths ahead of Keen Ice, Glen Eagles, and Hard Aces. And still Honor Code at the back of the field of 8 that chases American Pharaoh through 3/4 of a mile in 1:11 and 1. So it's picked up a bit as they head for the far turn. American Pharaoh's lead is a length and a half. And now Victor Espinosa starts to pump on him and says, let's go. On the far turn, they're in front by 2. FNX continues to chase, and then comes Frosted and Totalist, and they're all put to full-out drives, and American Pharaoh is getting away, and they're into the stretch, and American Pharaoh has a 4-length lead. FNX is second, and then it's Frosted, Totalist, and Honor Code. American Pharaoh comes into his final furlong, and he's got a 6-length lead as they come to the wire. A Triple Crown winner, a Breeders' Cup winner, a horse of a lifetime. American Pharaoh has won the Breeders' Cup Classic over FNX and Honor Code in a final time of 2 minutes, 0.07 seconds. He went out in style.
Is that the way to kick off?
I mean, like,
the
you
show?
almost had me crying to start the show today, Dan. Oh, so good. So good. So much fun. Incredible thing to be able to be, like, alive for.
I enjoyed watching your reaction to it. I could see your reaction as I was watching the race, and that was wonderful. Happy Breeders' Cup Saturday, everyone. The day we've all been waiting for comes a day after Future Stars Friday kicked off Breeders' Cup weekend with a bang. It was absolutely spectacular. We're going to recap some of that. Dan Tordjman here, Penelope Miller with me here from America's Best Racing. We're going to be joined by several guests over the next hour or so to set up your Breeders' Cup Saturday. Really exciting stuff. Just a reminder throughout the day and you know, as you're watching here on your social media channels, as you're watching the races online and on TV, when you're tweeting or when you're on Facebook, wherever you are, the hashtag MyBreedersCup to celebrate along and to watch along all day today. And also go to breederscup.com. There's a multicast. You've got the day covered from every possible angle. You've got the Players Show today, which will follow this. You've got the Contenders Cam, where you could follow the contenders in the paddock all the way to the gate. And you've got a VR experience, the Jockey Cam. There's everything.
Unbelievable.
I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like you're a lot better off at home.
I saw someone saying yesterday, which I really loved, and this is a friend of mine. I refer to her as one of my darling daughters. She's a young woman who's working in horse racing. She said that the contender cams that take you with the horse from the paddock to the starting gate very much reminded her of actually walking horses over to the Breeders' Cup, at, like, you know, being on a horse's team. So if you have ever wanted that experience of what it's like to be like working with a Breeders' Cup horse, tune in. They're really, really cool. I mean, it's a pretty, they've got a really cool, like, you know, user interactive situation happening this year. Take advantage of it.
100%. So just to get a couple of comments in, if you have comments or questions, send them in. We've got one here in particular that I wanted to answer. What time does the Breeders' Cup race start? So the first post today at Keeneland is at 10:15 Eastern. So we're only a little bit over an hour from first post today. The first Breeders' Cup race, though, is the Filly and Mare Sprint. That starts at 12:02 Eastern time. So if you're looking for coverage, that's where you will find it. Let's just briefly recap some of the action from yesterday. In the juvenile turf sprint, Golden Pal did what was expected of him. Short price favorite. He got to the lead, stayed there, put Wesley Ward and Irad Ortiz back in the winner's circle in the juvenile turf sprint for the second year in a row. In the juvenile turf, it was fire at will at 30-1 under Ricardo Santana. Mike Maker and Three Diamond Farms there.
You know what, too? Sorry, just to jump in. I went back and looked at the past performances of that horse and sat there and just was kicking myself. How did I let that get past me?
I envisioned a different sort of pace scenario. I thought it would be a multi-way go. I thought he would be part of that pace scenario. I just misread it entirely. We got a milder upset in the juvenile fillies, a horse. If you watched this show yesterday that both me and Penelope loved, Ren Carruthers was on this horse too. Vequist won at a shade over 6-1, Joel Rosario for trainer Butch Reed and Gary Barber and company.
I like how we're both gloating on that one, even though it was the only winner we gave out. But if you're shooting for long shots, that's what's going to happen. And granted, 6-1 is not the longest of long shots, but it's still a pretty tasty payday.
Absolutely. Well, look, 1 out of 5 in horse racing, that's 20%. You win at 20% in horse racing, you're doing pretty well. So I will take that for yesterday.
That's true across the board, whether you're a jockey, owner, trainer, like handicapper, 20% is like, it's not a failing grade in horse racing.
Absolutely. The final 2 races, by the way, on the Future Star Fridays card turned into the Brad Cox show. First, his filly Aunt Pearl ran them off their feet in the juvenile fillies turf with Florent Giroux up. And then Essential Quality took the BC Juvenile for Cox and Godolphin. It was a pretty impressive run. Luis Saez getting his first Breeders' Cup win, which it just struck me as like, Luis Saez, he's only 28, but it feels like he should have already had a Breeders' Cup win because he's so good. So I was a little surprised about that. So, all right. We've got 2 guests in the green room. We've got Raylu Gutierrez, who we will bring in momentarily. But first, I want to bring in Ali Vance, who's joining us right now from Wales. Hello, Ali.
Hi, guys. Yeah. How are you? Happy Breeders' Cup weekend and all that. It's about 2:00 in the afternoon over here, but so the coverage is perfect for us because it's all in the evening, so we can settle down for the night, grab a beer and a pizza, and watch good racing.
I like that plan. Look, Ali, we are so happy to have you here. We had you here earlier in the week. You've been doing a lot of great work with ABR. You've interviewed some of the trainers and jockeys that have come over for the Breeders' Cup, but had to be a little bit of a deflating start. Future Stars Friday, the European horses completely shut out. One of the horses you like, Miss Amulet, did run a nice third in the juvenile fillies turf. Aidan O'Brien's Mother Earth finished a fast closing second there. Battleground, Cowan, Lipizaner, who Penelope liked. They all ran credible races, but no winners. What do you think?
It was a tough day in the office. This time last year, again, there were no winners on the first day, no European winners on the first day. Before we came on air, we touched on the style of racing that you guys have in America, particularly yesterday. As you said, it just seemed to be front runners seem to be doing so well. You have to be so fast out of the gates. It's just very, very different to the European style, the tight turns. I thought, you saw how quick Battleground was finishing, absolutely flying home. And there could be more sob stories as such from the European runners today because it's just tough. It really is. But, if you were starting out the week looking at the 2 days from a European point of view, the better runners are today. It'll be very surprising if there isn't at least one winner from Europe today. I'm not saying there'll be more than one because definitely I would have thought not more than 2, but I would be I think last year everyone was pretty disappointed with just one winner for Europe in total, but it seems like it could happen 2 years running, which I guess, as I said, the style of running in Europe, the track and everything, it's very, very difficult for our horses to come over and do well.
Go ahead, Penelope.
Oh, I was just going to say, with how we saw the races playing yesterday, that early speed holding, does that make you like Magical a little bit more?
Well, looking at the Breeders' Cup turf, the top 4 in the betting are all, well, I suppose I'm looking at British markets, are all Europeans. Therefore, she's up against horses that are going to like similar type of racing. Therefore, it's not like she's the only European horse amongst a load of American horses. Perhaps, the European runners would dictate the pace a little bit more, might be run slightly more of it in a European style. So I think that's quite hard to, I'm not sure you can judge her race like that. I like Magical. I like her now. I liked her before. I don't think yesterday's racing is going to change too much. But you look at perhaps the fillies and mares where, to be honest, the home team and the European team are pretty similar. And then you look at yesterday's racing, and then perhaps you do favour the American runners just because they're going to be more used to that type of pace early on, which the British runners perhaps aren't.
We're going to dig into the races here a little bit. I want to bring in our second guest, though, for some additional perspective. In addition to being a jockey, he's also involved in a little bit of a handicapping competition this weekend. Raylu Gutierrez. Raylu, how you doing?
What's up, guys? How's everybody doing?
Good. Where are you right now? Were you in the city yesterday?
Nah. Today I'm in my hotel right now. So I just popped in and yeah.
Very good. So tell us about this handicapping challenge that you're involved in.
Well, I saw that Kenny Mayne predicted the documentary, the last the Michael Jordan one. So he was like, so when I heard about, when Steve Panis reached out to me, I was like, yeah, this is horse racing. This isn't a documentary. So let's see if he can predict it. But I think that he whooped me yesterday. I don't think I got one horse right yesterday. So I think, jockeys suck at handicapping. But
really, that's who you like. No.
Yeah, so I just got whooped. But I mean, either way, congratulations on all those connections. I mean, just like you were saying earlier, Luis Saez winning his first Breeders' Cup. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, he's such a great rider, and so I was definitely surprised to hear that. But hell of a ride. And Ricardo Santana for Michael Maker. I mean, that was awesome too. I mean, so some really, really great races yesterday.
Just for those who don't know, if you go to americasbestracing.net, Raylu is in a head-to-head competition with Kenny Mayne from ESPN to see who could pick the most winners over the 2 days of the Breeders' Cup, as Raylu just owned up to. He was shut out yesterday. In his defense, though, I think he wanted to go with Golden Pal, but said, you know what, I don't want to be too chalky, so I'll step back out from that. But I noticed you've got a couple of spicy picks today. You didn't go chalky for every race today, and I want to start out with the first race of the day, the Filly and Mare Sprint. You went with a little bit of a price.
Yeah, I love Come Dancing because I think it's just going to be a really hot pace in there. Gamine, Venetian Harbor. And you know what? Bob Baffert let me down yesterday, so I'm not picking him today. But I just think the pace is going to be really hot. I think Come Dancing, she's just a grinder. And if she gets a trip, Irad knows her super, super well. If she gets a trip, I think she's just going to come running at the end. Carlos Martin is a really great trainer in prepping these horses. So it's I got to go with Come Dancing.
Awesome. Raylu, I'm right there with you, just so you know.
Allie, I don't know if you've taken a look in particular at this race, but of course the Filly and Mare Sprint features Gamine and Serengeti Empress. Look, there's a lot of speed there. You add Venetian Harbor to the mix. She's another one with speed. In the midst of Biz, the 4-horse, also has speed there. You could argue Serengeti Empress is faster than all of them, so they're up against it. Does it set up, though, for a Come Dancing like Raylu suggested, or even a speech down on the rail cutting back to 7 furlongs?
Guys, I am sitting out of your dirt races other than the classic and the distaff, all right? So you guys plow on. I'm focusing on the Europeans. Obviously, really looking forward to the classic. But you crack on with your dirt sprint races because Europe are never going to be sending runners to those races.
Penelope, what's your take? Oh, and by the way, before we move on, if Penelope sounds a little off in any of her handicapping takes today, it might be because of this.
My cat ate my homework last night. I fell asleep, left the papers I made notes on for today's show on my sofa, and woke up to just paper everywhere. Disaster.
Has this ever happened to anyone, having their handicapping notes eaten by their cat? I mean,
wow.
Rayla's like, wow.
It's a giant bummer. And now he is sleeping like an angel on my bed, of course. He's 15 years old. Yeah. I should probably just change his name to Oh No Kitty.
She doesn't like the turf. He doesn't like the turf race, does he?
No, he does not. He did not approve of my selections there. Maybe I need to take it as a sign. I don't know. But yeah, when it comes to the filly and mare sprint, I'm with Raylu 100%. Love Come Dancing. She can be right off of it, which, as we kind of touched on, looking at the results from yesterday at Keeneland, like being on the inside and having that early tactical speed, you can come from right off the pace in this race. I don't think you can come from far out of it. So I like that. In her final workout in preparation for this race, she had the fastest work of the day at Keeneland. I love that. I love that. We talked about that yesterday with Beatlist, how much importance I put on that as a handicapping angle. So yeah, Come Dancing. I want to make some money. Let's do it that way.
I like it. I really do like it. Look, Serengeti Empress has proven herself race after race. She loves the 7 furlong distance. She's just too fast. But if they keep her, if they can keep steady pressure on her, I think it does set up for one of a couple of horses. One is Come Dancing. Another one is Speech. And then I think the horse on the outside, Bell's the one, as consistent as any, in great form, won the Derby City Distaff last out. And it's going to be a nice price again. So, I like where your minds are at. Let's move on to race 5 today on the card. It's the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. That goes off at 12:39 Eastern. Massive field. I think you could basically just throw a dart here and hope to get lucky. There is one European horse, and that's Glass Slipper. So I'll bring Allie in for some quick analysis. Do you think that one has any shot?
I think it has each way chance. It's a dual grade 1 winner or group 1 winner. So he's a very good horse, but not necessarily renowned for coming out of the gates super, super speedy. And as we saw yesterday, that could be a problem. So could be in for a place. Trained by Kevin Ryan up in Yorkshire. It'd be a nice story if it does do well, but I think there are better European chances today.
Okay. Raylu, who's your play?
Imprimis. I think Irad goes back to back. I love Imprimis because Imprimis has improved since coming back from Ascot. That lay after the well, George does an incredible job getting this horse ready. And just looking at her latest victories, I mean, just improving. Saratoga 5.5 win, 3/4 at Keeneland win. Now she's coming back to 5.5. I really love her. I love her numbers. She's been working steady down at Gulfstream, and I think this race, Irad will keep her closer, but I think she's going to make a great run late, and she's going to crack on very nicely.
Penelope?
Hipster pick?
Let's take it.
All right. This is like a hot take coming through. Big runner in the 1 hole.
Okay.
Has a string of lightning fast works coming into this race. And by, if you're not a horse racing nerd like us, all that means is that in the morning when he's training for this race, goes really, really quickly. I think being, again, on the inside and in these short races is a big advantage. Why not? The odds will probably be pretty tasty. I'm willing to take a giant swing here. And if you want a more conventional, sensible pick, I also like Leinster. Tons of class. Rusty Arnold at Keeneland. It's a really solid bet. Rusty Arnold is his trainer. So those are my 2.
Yeah, I love Leinster, 7-horse. Luis Saez up for Rusty. 3 wins in 4 starts at Keeneland. Also at the distance, 5 wins in 8 starts. Has only finished worse than second once. Alexandra is one who's interesting. Super classy filly. Won the Jaipur after having an awful start in that race. Comes back here off an extended break. That would be my only question. Is she fit enough at this moment to hop into a field this large and win? Look, you got to also give credit and love to Got Stormy on the outside.
No, I have I put a star next to in the past performances next to all the horses I think will win. I just put a heart next to her. I just love her so much. She's so cute, little freckle nose.
I was reminded the other day also the last time this race was run at Keeneland, Mongolian Saturday won from the 14 hole. Today it'll be Extravagant Kid from the 14 hole, who is a super, super consistent horse, never gets much attention or fanfare, But at 15-1 on the morning line, Umberto Rispoli, who has established himself already in his short period in the U.S. as one of the best turf riders in the country, gets the mount there. So I think that race sets up for all sorts of chaos. And Ray Lou could tell you and expand a little bit. Those turf sprints are crazy to begin with. When you throw 14 of the best horses in the world in the mix, with all the extra adrenaline and anxiety of Breeders' Cup Day, it really is all about the break and the trip, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll really say this. I mean, I love that you said Alexander, because I know she's coming off the layoff, but she's finished second off the layoff. I'm seeing right here before. And Niels Drysdale, it's so encouraging to see. He's been working this mare every 6 days on average, and been working really good, coming off a 3/4, working 114 and change. And that's a pretty good work. And we don't see the gallop out in here, but I know she probably galloped out a mile. So going to be ready. And these types of races, these, turf sprints, is there really any rider better at timing them than Joel Rosario? Like if he gets like, I'm sure he's going to break. He's probably going to try to get into at least the 3 path, because, she's a closer. So he'll be able to settle. And that last quarter of a mile, I mean, yeah, if anybody's going to come, it's going to be him, So it's just this, if this horse is fit and ready, this is going to be a good price for any handicapper out there.
9:20 a.m. on the East Coast here, less than an hour away from first post at Keeneland. Wild to think. We're under an hour now. If you've got questions, send them in. If there's a particular horse or a race that you're focused on, let us know. We will do our best to get to it. Let's move on to race 6 today. This goes off at 1:18 Eastern. It's the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. A lot of star power here. Art Collector, who went into the Preakness last out, is one of the favorites. Disappointed a little bit, finished 4th there. Cuts back a bit here to a mile. You've also got the likes of War of Will, last year's Preakness winner, 10-1 on the morning line, if that tells you anything about how competitive this race is. And then you've got Nick's Go, who famously, has done his best running at Keeneland and has really hit another level since moving over to the Brad Cox barn. Penelope, how do you see this race playing out?
Well, actually, before I say, because again, my handicapping got eaten, so a lot of this I had to do on the fly. Really, I have a question for you.
What's
this
that?
race, obviously 1 mile on the dirt at Keeneland, that puts the starting gate pretty much on the first turn.
Right.
How much does post position affect your the race in a situation like this?
Well, the riders know this. Either you're in or you're out. And if you're inside and you're on a live horse, you want to serve position immediately. I'm sure Brian will do that with Art Collector. He'll get him out of there, whether he's on the lead or whether he's sitting. That will really tell. I mean, and with the turn being there, I expect him to be on the lead, because maybe around the turn someone will come, want that position to start it, but I expect him out of there, jacking out of there, getting his position. And if you don't have speed, these are some of the best riders in the world, and they know that let me just take back and let my horse settle, because if you try to get up there and your horse doesn't make it, you're going to put yourself in a really ugly spot, really tight positioning, and that can really cost at the end of the race. And we've seen it so many times at Gulfstream at the Mount 16th race on the dirt. The turn is right there, so you have to be there immediately. So I really just expect, Brian to get position, but Joel, he's not too far out with Nick's Go. He'll be right there as well, and then they'll let their horses settle.
Cool, because one of the horses I really like in this race has very possibly the worst post position you could ask for, which is Owendale in the 12 hole. I'm sorry, but I'm done ignoring Brad Cox on races this Breeders' Cup. I'm just not doing it.
You got Nick's Go. You could just go with the.
I could, but I mean, if you look at Owendale, he's 1-for-1 at Keeneland. He has been just in the money pretty consistently this year. I wonder if he's not going to be overlooked, and I think he's going to be much higher than 8-1. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's not your winner, but I think he's going to be in the mix. And then, as Raylo already mentioned, Art Collector is my other horse in this race. I can't resist that tasty number 1 post position going into the first turn that quickly.
Yeah, my big thing here is just, Richie Miglore says this all the time, and I learned this from him, and I apply it all the time, is you always want to try to get your position moving forward, and Owendale, with how this race is going to set up and where he's breaking from, while everyone's going forward and vertically, he's going to have to move horizontally. and forward. So he's gonna have to work a little bit harder at that, those first 200 meters. So it'll cost him a little bit, that's why I don't really like him, because of his post and at this distance.
Allie's going to make fun of me, but anytime somebody that gives me distance in meters, it could be literally anything. It could be from here to the computer screen, or it could be from here to Rockefeller Center. I don't know.
Yeah, look, I love the insight there from Raylu, and I think it really, some of our viewers are commenting on it right now. It really does give some perspective, because there's going to be a lot of tactics and a lot of gamesmanship out of the gate. I like the idea of art collector Brian Hernandez just absolutely bursting out of the gate and going for it. Now he's going to take pressure from Nick Sko to his outside, but he could, if he gets out well enough, he could have some options. He could potentially pull off the rail and get into a nice stalking or tracking position, or he could just save ground and hope that someone goes with Nick Sko, and then potentially just wait for an opening on the rail. I'm on the art collector train here. I think he's a horse who's been super consistent. I'm going to forgive his Preakness. And then, if you want a crazy price to throw into the mix, a horse who's just super, super consistent and just always shows up, 30-1, the 3-horse Silver Dust. Just a really fun, neat horse. Might be a cut below these in terms of just overall quality and class. But he'll give you everything he's got every single time. Has rarely finished out of the money in the past couple of years. And, look, heart of a champion. I think this horse is going to run a brave, gutsy race. And who knows, at 35, 40-1, might finish third. And if he does, throw some show money on a horse like that. I think it's a pretty high reward, low risk proposition with a horse like Silver Dust. Moving on to race 7, it's going to be the filly and mare turf. This race is absolutely spectacular, loaded with quality horses, a number of Chad Brown runners, including Sister Charlie, who of course won the filly and mare turf in 2018, finished third in the race last year. You've got the likes of My Sister Nat for Brown, Rushing Fall, though, of course, leading the Brown squad. And then you've got Motion's Mean Mary, who's been absolutely spectacular, figures to love the distance, and a couple of intriguing European horses. Ali, I'll tell you, the one who is generating the most buzz here is Terabellum, who's 20-1 in the morning line. What do you think?
Look, it's a horse that has excuses for the last few runnings, but if you look back at her form, finishing second in the Queen Anne at Ascot to Circus Maximus is a really good run. Since then, finished third and fifth at Newmarket. Perhaps the going will be better suited here. Both the last 2 runs were heavy and soft going, whereas it's going to be obviously much faster today. And the fact that you've got really strong, powerful connections in John Gosden and Frankie Dettori, of course, victorious with Enable and many other good horses coming over to the Breeders' Cup. So you can't ignore a horse trained by John Gosden, ridden by Frankie Dettori, who was big price. You say she was 20-1?
20-1 in the morning line, yep.
Yeah, so she's around 7-1 in the European markets or in British markets. So you can see that she's definitely more fancied over here. Looking at the other runners, you're Peaceful for Aidan O'Brien, won the 1,000 guineas, the Irish 1,000 guineas. This is going to be tougher. Perhaps her form hasn't been as super duper as since then, until her last run behind her, where she finished totally last at Newmarket. Again, that was heavy going. And then you got Adaria for James Fanshawe, who's run very well in the last 2 starts, but both of them again on heavy, slow ground in France. And the one that I quite like at a bigger price of European runners is Cayenne Pepper, which is trained by Jessica Harrington. She had her first run in the Breeders' Cup last year, and she sent 3 over this year. She had 2 juveniles yesterday. But Cayenne Pepper is a horse that's super consistent this season, and she won her last start, a Grade 2 at the Curragh. But before that, finished in second behind Tanawa, who is running, who's very fancied for the turf. And then 4 starts ago, finished second behind Magical. So you can kind of see her form is pretty strong, despite not that many number 1s by her name. So Cayenne Pepper, who with the European market, she's around about 8-1. I imagine she's would be much bigger with you guys.
Yes, absolutely. I think Cayenne Pepper was 8-1 in the morning line. I do expect that price to drift, especially with all the money that's going to come in on the Chad Brown runners. Which, speaking of, Raylu, I know that's where you're leaning.
Yeah, I just think she's just I think Rushing Fall is just the best mare in this race. I think I said it in my handicap, and just superior to all the other horses, in my opinion. Javier, he's cold-blooded in these races. He's gonna work out. He's gonna find a way. I think Chad's gonna win this race. And I think Iridessa won this race last year, so I think the Americans they want to win this race this year.
Well, we're going to get into a little bit of that competition, and Ali spoke to, for example, Frankie Dettori earlier this week, who spoke about how good it feels to get one over on the Americans and beat them. It's a real thing. There's a very real competition. But on the subject of Rushing Fall, owned by E5 Racing, a really interesting group for an ownership team. Only got into the game about 5 years ago and experienced immediate success in the sport. Father-daughter combination, Bob Edwards and Cassie Edwards. Our team on the ground at Keeneland caught up with them.
Rushing Fall, family favorite. We were blessed to have her, run for us for the last few years. She's won grade ones at 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is a spectacular accomplishment. She's an unbelievable looking, more than ready. She's a gorgeous horse. She's a keen competitor, and we're super happy to be back at the Breeders' Cup again to see if she can repeat. So we won our first Breeders' Cup with New Money Honey and thought that was the best thing ever, and we'd never be able to do that again. And then the next year we won with Good Magic and Rushing Fall. So we're 3 for 3 in Breeders' Cups. So we're pretty stoked to be back here again to see her kind of end her career on the track at Keeneland, where she really loved running here.
Tyler Gaffalion is my boyfriend. I'm excited. He works really hard and he's so deserving. So he's got a couple good shots this weekend, and fingers crossed. I've always loved horses growing up, so I just love being around them. I never really knew too much about horse racing until he got into it, but I do love the side of it, and I think it's a lot of fun to be able to share it with family and friends.
3 for 3 at the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, totally. People are going normal.
They don't know what it feels like to
horse
lose.
ownership is like.
Penelope, who's your pick in this race?
Yeah. So I think I'm on record saying that I think this is such a good competitive race. Betting wise, personally, I'm going to sit out of it and just watch these amazing horses turn left and see what happens. But if I had to give, I can't do it. I can't. I'm in love with too many of these horses. And I've been on record here saying too that it's important to pick and choose your spots. It's okay to just not bet. Ali's staying out of some of the dirt sprints and stuff like that. I'm going to stay out of this race because I love Starship Jubilee. I love Mean Mary. I love Rushing Fall. I got to think for Sister Charlie.
Yeah.
I have too many horse crushes in this race. I'm not doing it.
Spectacular race. I'll land on Mean Mary and My Sister Nat. I think that the other Chad Brown is a little under the radar, and I think a really solid horse. 9:32 now. We do have another guest who's going to be joining us momentarily. Ashley Mayu is at Keeneland, is going to be checking in with a live report. We do need to click through some of these races, so I want to go a little faster here on the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Race 8, Raylu, who you got?
Yaupan.
Okay.
That's it. That's it. Yaupan's going to win easy. Yaupan. Done.
All right. Penelope?
I'm eating chalk. CZ Rocket. Done.
Wow, very chalky. So I got to be the one who throws out the price. I'm going to give you Whitmore. I said earlier this week, I've never.
Raylu, wait until you hear his classic pick. It's unreal.
I love the loyalty. That's loyalty to Whitmore because he's I love it.
I'm going to put a little
right now too.
I'll put a little mark by his name, and that mark will be if the track is playing more fairly than it was yesterday. If it's playing like it was yesterday, there's no way Whitmore is going to be able to be close enough to the pace to make his patented late move, nor really make a late move because no one was making any late moves yesterday. So we'll see how the track's playing. Keep an eye on that. A very important thing. If you're betting the races today, watch how the track is playing early and watch if it changes throughout the course of the day and let that inform some of your decisions. Look, Whitmore, I just think, again, I want to go with the gritty, tough horse who I know is going to show up, always shows up. He might not be good enough to win. I'm looking for prices who can hit the board. I think he's one of them. So,
okay, Dan, really quickly, we just have a question on YouTube. Vincent A asked, could anyone define the exact meaning of a recent Keeneland sales graduate? Vincent, Keeneland is not just a racetrack. They also have a thoroughbred auction house. So all that means is that horse was sold at Keeneland. It doesn't really have any bearing on the race. They're just noting it because that's business.
Absolutely. Well done. Well explained.
Question, but you don't have to like look at it as an angle at all.
The Breeders' Cup Mile is race 9, 3:15 Eastern. Allie, there's a lot for you to talk about here. I'm going to ask you to rapid fire. Tell us about some of these horses.
Yeah, well, I mean, traditionally this race isn't necessarily great for the Europeans, but I think this year they are sending over some really big guns, including 2 classic winners in Kamiko and Siskin. Kamiko won the British 2,000 guineas, Siskin won the Irish 2,000 guineas, and Kamiko in UK betting is the favourite and has done nothing wrong this season. You might think why the 4th place finishes on his form, but he lost nothing, losing to older horses with plenty of excuses, and one came at Goodwood, which is a notoriously tricky track, and he got absolutely boxed in. And Siskin, though, personally, we spoke to Colin Keane, Ger Lyons rather. Colin Keane is going to be riding the horse. Ger Lyons, the trainer, and he says that Siskin's in absolutely fantastic form and at a bigger price. I really like Siskin because I feel he has a better turn of foot. He's able to really put the accelerator on when he needs to. He won the Irish 2,000 guineas, and in that race he got absolutely the worst kind of 2 furlongs out. He was boxed in. He had a wall of horses in front of him, and he managed to come out wide and absolutely put the burners on and win that race. And I think he's going to need that today at a slightly bigger price. Also got the likes of Circus Maximus, Loeb de Fernandez for Aidan O'Brien, and Safe Voyage for John Quinn. So of the European runners, Siskin is the pick for me. And fingers crossed, but it's definitely not a slam dunk for the Europeans this race, because there's some very nice American horses in, I guess, Uni or anything that Chad Brown's got in this race seems to do very well. But Uni is the pick of the Americans.
Yeah, I like you going with one of the longer priced Europeans in Siskin. Raylu, what do you think about this race?
I have a question for you, and just for the bettors out there, how would you compare the guineas to, let's say, the Juddmonte International, as far as comparing them to American races, like you know, let's say like from the Belmont, then you're getting ready to run in the Whitney, so kind of in that aspect. How do bettors compare those races if they don't know European racing?
So the Guineas is a classic like your Triple Crown in that it's restricted to 3-year-olds only. So whereas the Juddmonte International is for older horses as well. So it has 3-year-olds. Those 2 particular races, the Guineas is over a mile, whereas the Juddmonte's over 10 furlongs. So it's over 1.25 miles. So that's slightly different. In the 3-year-olds in this country, much like yours, tend to stay racing each other up until about August time, and then they race the older horses. And Goodwood is one race, which is the Sussex Stakes, where all of the ages come together, which we'll talk about in a bit, because there's some great old cross-age races at the Breeders' Cup today. But the Sussex Stakes was won by an older horse, but both Kamiko and Siskin finished 3rd, Kamiko finished in 4th, didn't run bad races at all. So it's, obviously we're 3-year-olds by the time you get to now, in theory, and that's a big question, and a lot of, racing commentators will wonder, when does a 3-year-old become on equal playing field to an older horse? And that's a big question in the Classic later on, isn't it? So but by August was the time when they were starting to race each other over in Europe.
Cool. All right.
Great question. Great response. Raylu, what do you think?
Speed kills in this race. Louis Styes gets a 2nd Breeders' Cup right here. Halliday, Top Fletcher. I just think this horse is just going to break out of there. Louis is an aggressive rider. He's a great speed rider. He's great on the front end. I think he just gets out there and he gets the job done.
I like it at a bit of a price too. I think he'll drift up. I think the morning line's about 10-1 or 12-1. I think you're going to get every bit of that. Penelope?
Kamiko and Uni.
Okay. I like it. I like it. Right now, we have joining us live from Keeneland, Ashley Mayo.
Hey guys, how are you?
How you doing?
I am good. I shouldn't say I just got to the track. I've been here since like 6:30 this morning in a unnamed parking lot at Keeneland, into normal dress clothes for the races, and just waiting for the action to get started.
Nice. Well, you've arrived just in time for the big three, the final three races on the Breeders' Cup card, the Breeders' Cup Distaff, which will be followed by the Turf and then the Classic. As we dig into the Distaff, Ashley, since you've just arrived, I'll kick it to you first. It's the matchup between Swiss Skydiver and Monomoy Girl. Do you see it coming down to just the two of them, or can you see past them?
I mean, I think if you're at the top spot, there were two that stood out to me. I actually came out here yesterday around 5:30, 5:45. I saw them both on the track. I saw Swiss Skydiver first, and I felt like she was just very cool, calm, and collected, that sort of professional. But Monomoy Girl came out on the track, and she, as soon as she turned away from the pony, she just wanted to go. And the exercise rider had said, "Hey, easy, mama." And she just kind of knows her job. But I guess I was talking to some other trainers, and they've been watching her this week. She's so professional that when she's done, she knows. Like, she puts the brakes on, like, okay, I'm done now. She's really classy. And I will say, from a handicapping standpoint, after the Preakness, that's probably one of the best races I've seen this year. And luckily, I got to see the race in person. I was all Swiss Skydiver, just giving her a slight edge over Monomoy. And then yesterday morning, I'm like, uh-oh. I mean, I think it's going to be a really great race. I think in terms of a price, the one that stands out to me is Valiance. I believe Valiance is the 12-1 morning line. Really, really good looking gray horse on the track yesterday morning. I think maybe the race sets up for her a little bit for underneath, but to me, it's a two-horse race on paper, and it looks like in the flesh too.
What do you make of how the track was playing yesterday, specifically the dirt, and do you see that coming into play here? I mean, because one horse that just jumped out to me is Lady Kate, who's typically always on the lead. She's got a ton of speed. She's 15-1 on the morning line. Tyler Gaffleone has nothing to lose sending this horse out there. And I just wonder if a horse like that maybe has a shot, or if, again, as I've said, you got to just monitor the situation today to see how the track's playing. But what did you make of the way it played yesterday, and how do you think it could potentially factor into a race like this?
I think you look at just the dirt races, what I noticed is horses that went to the front, for the most part, they still stuck around for at least a share. Even on the undercard, I know Chris Davis had a horse, went right to the front and still hung around for second or third. A good performance, but it's interesting to look at the setup, because if you look at what happened to Jackie's Warrior yesterday, you thought Jackie, at least I thought the horse was going to go. I didn't think the horse needed the lead, but by that being that kind of stalking fourth trip, really didn't pay for the horse and just didn't have any from there. So I want to watch a couple races, and I think with the undercard races, I think they're all on the get a better idea of how that'll play out.
Very cool. Raylu.
I'm going Monomoy Girl, and the reason I'm going Monomoy Girl so confidently is the distance is in mile and eighth. She has that extra bit of extra bit of the 16th, whatever, just to get over. And I really like Monomoy Girl just because Swiss Skydiver ran such a great race in the Preakness, but she ran such a hard race. And watching that race, I mean, Robbie Alvarado made a move at the 5/8. He made the winning move, and she won that race, but she ran harder than anybody from the 5/8 to the wire. And she stuck in, she gained against the boys. And that's really tough. And to come back in under a month, that can take a lot out of a horse. She ran some great numbers. Can she run back up to those numbers? I mean, hey, if she does, then she really, really is a champion. She's already a champion, but that's just a different level type of champion. Monomoy Girl, on the other hand, though, September rest. She's over a month rest. She worked October 31st, 5/8, 101 and change. That was probably in hand. So easy. Probably could have gone 59, 58 she really wanted. Galloped out well. I'm assuming Florent knows her. Brad Cox gets him ready. And she, this race, it's going to be a tough race, but I'm just confidently over picking Monomoy Girl just because she's more rested. And I think at the end, that last 16th, it's going to help her a lot to stick it in.
Like on paper, it may be a two-horse race, but there's another interesting horse in here, a New Jersey bred named Horologist. Talk about being against the odds, coming out of nowhere. She's a daughter of, her mom's name, her dam's name is Cinderella Time, and this truly is a Cinderella story. bred in Jersey again, sort of very, minimal pedigree, and she's really just built upon one race after another. We caught up with one of her owners at Keeneland to talk about what it feels like, just the excitement of bringing a filly like this to the Breeders' Cup.
So my name is Cameron Beatty. I'm owner and breeder of Horologist. She won her first race by a lot of lengths, and that's really when the door kind of opened. And it's definitely a process that you have to be patient for, but once you're patient, it all pays off. I mean, look, we're at the Breeders' Cup, so it's definitely paid off. The nerves, they set in. I probably won't eat for the next 24 hours, but that's just the kind of person I am with any of my horses. And getting ready for a race is one thing, but when it comes to race day, I'm nervous as heck. And but it's the biggest race of the year, so we're just happy to be here. If she's coming down the stretch and hits to the lead, I might not be able to see her cross the finish line because I'll be on the floor. So it's definitely, I'm going to be going crazy. I'm going to be going nuts, and I can't imagine
it. I'll be on the floor. That's my favorite line. Penelope, thoughts on the distaff?
Okay, so this is another one where I'm going to be going with the favorite, but I'm also on Monomoy Girl. My friend Alicia Hughes has watched this horse for the last week or so training, and she says that she has by far the best looking horse in the morning. So that's usually how I pick horses, is I'm a visual handicapper. I can read the form, stuff like that, but my final decision usually comes from how a horse looks and is acting before a race. And apparently she is just, as Ashley said, flawless heading into this. So again, not betting against Brad Cox when it figures so well.
All right. We've got 10 minutes to cover the next two races. So let's try to get through these. The Breeders' Cup Turf is race 11, goes off at 4:33 Eastern time. The headliner is Magical, Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore. Allie, should we stop there, or is there anything else in here that can upset Magical?
Yeah, I mean, all of the European runners, the top four there. Mogul, who's also trained by Aidan O'Brien. Tawana, trained by Dermot Weld, of course, a trainer that's done very well over in America over the years. Won the Belmont Stakes. And Medaya, Lord North for John Gosden, another trainer that does well shipping horses over to America. But Magical has the form. She's definitely the one to beat. Her last 12 runs, I was saying, has all been in grade ones, and she's hardly finished out of the top two. I think that she's got a good draw in two. She is coming in, off. She needs to put her last run behind her. That's got excuses in that. That was an absolutely bottomless ground. But we know that she runs well at Keeneland, or she travels to Kentucky, rather. She came second at Churchill Downs last time. She travels well. She's sort of been all over the shop. I think she's the one to beat. But there is a bit of chatter in the UK press, particularly about Tanawa for Dermot Weld. So bigger price, that one. A horse that's won her last three runnings, had the option of running in the fillies and mares, opted for the turf. Colin Keane has replaced Christoph Sumion on the horse, who sadly tested positive for COVID this week. But Colin Keane, Irish champion jockey, absolutely fabulous jockey. So this horse is coming into the race off the back of 3 wins, as I said. But I really struggle to see past Magical, and it would be a great story and a wonderful victory for her to cap her year and possibly her career, because you wonder if she's going to be heading to third after this race.
Ashley, what's the buzz on the ground, and who do you like in the Breeders' Cup Turf?
I struggled with these turf races. I like hearing from Allie and getting an idea of things. I thought I started writing numbers down. I was writing down half the field, and I'm like, this is going to get expensive real quick. It was. I think besides the favorite is where I struggled. I'm actually going to look at that race more heavily because I do want to play a late pick 4. I just haven't even thought about structuring my ticket. I've just been on cloud 9, to be honest, but it is really weird to be here. The only turf race, not to circle back, the only turf race that I had a strong opinion on is a long shot in the sprint. I really like Extravagant Kid. I don't think the horse can win. But I think the horse is a great horse to use for second or third. So that's the only opinion I have. I'm all over the favorite in the turf.
I'm glad you said that, because we do have some people in our comments dragging us for picking all the favorites in Monomoy Girl and and Swiss Skydiver and Magical. So we needed a long shot, perfectly timed. Penelope, your thoughts on this race?
So I have huge respect for Magical, obviously, but I can't keep betting, as people in the comments have noticed, chalk. But the other thing is too, I think that I don't really understand the morning line odds here, the probable odds that are put on paper before the race. If I can get United at 8-1, I'm taking that all day. We've been watching horses win from the front end. He likes it there. He's had a season like no other. He did get beaten by Red King, but Richard Mandela, his trainer, does not show up to a race unless he thinks he's got a very good chance. And again, if I can get 8-1 on United, the horse that lost this race by like the barest of margins last year, I'm taking that all day.
You mentioned the front end. I can envision a crazy scenario that I think I mentioned to you the other day, in which Channel Maker is alone on the lead for most of this race.
Channel Maker is fascinating here.
I think so too. I think it gets completely overlooked. And then one of these catch him, most likely Magical at the wire. But I don't mind Channel Maker here at what might be a big price, listed at 5-1 on the morning line. I think you're going to get much bigger than that. Raylu, give us the late double. Take us into the Classic. Who wins the Turf? Who wins the Classic?
No, the Turf, I've been going back and forth on it. My college roommate works at Nairo, Vinny Greco. He just told me, pace makes the race. Thank you, Vinny. You're so right. I love Channel Maker because if she can get out there, oh man, I think it's gonna be between her and Magical to me. But
Allie's shaking her head quietly at all of us.
I want Aiden O'Brien, Ryan. I want to give him some love. But my man Vinny's right. Pace makes the race. Channel Maker. Now, here's my bet of the day. I'm so confident in this pick. I'm so confident it's disgusting. Tom's d'Etat.
Yes!
Okay? I watched the race live. I was there. Joel is, I speak to him all the time. And, he's probably one of the guys that's taught me the most. And, that race, I paid so close attention. And the horse broke so bad. It wasn't his fault. It just happens sometimes. He broke really bad, a little wide on the first turn, wide on the last turn, and he made up so much ground. And he actually, it was impressive the way he finished and what he finished in that race. That's my pick of the day. Take it home. Gonna get the W. Tom's d'Etat. You heard it here first.
I love it. It looks like we have consensus. Everybody was nodding along. Allie?
Yeah. What a race that Classic is, guys. I think one of the best classics in recent years. Such depth, and to put my caveat out there early, there are probably 6 horses that could win it. But having looked down, I'm so pleased that Ray's picked Tom's d'Etat because that was my selection, and having purely because he's done well at Keeneland, and I think that's an important factor. He's had a break. He does well off a break. Some of the others have been at it for long time this summer. So Tom's d'Etat, come on, let's finish the night on a high.
Love it. Ashley?
So, everyone had the same reaction except you, and I know you have this weird feeling about a horse, and Penelope's face looks like it's engraved in my mind. Like, okay, I'm a Tom's d'Etat fan. This has been my horse kind of in the rankings that I've always had at the top, even after the Whitney, just because I'm a sucker for a 7-year-old that still is kind of blazing on the track. But he had every excuse, and I think when he stumbled out of the gate and was slow in the Whitney, it set up beautifully for Improbable. Now, I will take back what I've said in the past. I think if I had like $5 for every time I've said I don't like Improbable, I'd be rich. Wouldn't have student loans anymore, especially on ABR segments. But I do think he's really matured as a 4-year-old, and when I saw him here yesterday, he was one of the horses that stood out to me as well. But I really think we've already said it. There are about 6 horses that could win, and I would not be shocked at all. I think for me, from a sentimental standpoint, I'd like to see Tom's d'Etat win, and from a handicapping perspective as well. But I'm also a little intrigued by Maximum Security. I will say it. I really am a little bit intrigued by him because we know that Bob has the ability to get horses ready to go for the big moments, and he's kind of been all along saying, I didn't have the horse up to 100%. I didn't do these things. And it makes you wonder if he's going to, pop a big today. But for me, Tom's d'Etat.
I see some of the viewers have been drinking my Kool-Aid. We've got some Tacitus fans in the house. Literally, look at where are these people coming from now? Look, I think it's a long shot, and that would be reflected in the horse's odds. I just think he hasn't had many races in which he's gotten a setup. He's coming out of a couple of races with really small fields. As Raylu knows, sometimes those 4 or 5 horse fields can get a little weird. You don't have you don't have any race shape, so you don't have pace to run into. Draws the rail here, should be ample amount of speed in front of him. Look, he's always seemed to have the ability. He's never been able to put it together. Could this be the day? I'll take a shot at 25-1. I'll take a shot. Penelope, last word.
I will be so happy for you if that happens. I will. No, I will. I mean, look, I am a sucker for a gray. As you know, I am like a huge Tampa Bay Downs fan. He won the Tampa Bay Derby. Sure. You know what? I'd be delighted. That having been said, Tom Staton all the way. Like, I will let Tacitus beat me, Dan.
You may not have too much to fear there. All right. We are coming up on 9:55. First post at Keeneland today, 10:15 Eastern. Huge day ahead of us. First Breeders' Cup race is the Filly and Mare Sprint at 12:02 Eastern time. Thank you for watching this show. Thank you for sticking with us all week long. I'm Dan Tordjman for Raylu Gutierrez, for Ashley Mayu, for Ali Vance, for Penelope Miller, and for everyone who has been with us this week. We thank you, and we say have a great day. Good luck on Breeders' Cup 2020.